everybody, welcome back to another episode of Speech Check. I'm Sam.
And I'm Matt.
And this is episode 18.
And today, we're going to talk about Iron Man VR, Trump's Twitch channel, and why we game.
But before we talk about any of that, Matt, what have you been playing?
Well, last couple of weeks, I've been playing mainly roguelikes. There was a update to Hades, which was pretty cool, like a lot of quality of life stuff. They added a couple of new encounters and they updated some of the artwork in the game. Like some of the characters had their placeholder art and animation for a little while, like Nyx and Karen or Sharon, however you pronounce, the boatman of the river Styx. They both got their artwork updated, so they're a bit more in line with the rest of the game. And I've got nearly 50 hours in it on a 15 quid early access purchase. So I'm very pleased with that game.
You're getting your money's worth. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's like the model for how you should do early access, you know? They released enough content to make the game worth having even in an unfinished form. So all of the elements that they put into the early access were still complete, or they had complete enough replacement aspects to make the game playable. It means that you don't feel like, you know, some early access games, you play it and you just feel like you're playing some pre-alpha version of the game. You know, that things are barely there. It's all just a bit jank, and you can tell stuff hasn't really been ironed out. With Hades, it's a truncated version of the game with not as much of the content as they want, but what is there is complete, and it's completely playable, and you have all of the elements there that allow it to be replayed time and time again. Well, 40 hours, going on 50, you know, that's a lot for an early access game.
I was going to say, I think early access can sometimes be a bit of a dirty brand, I guess, to put across a game, because there's been some games that have been guilty of just kind of keeping like certain games in like early access limbo. But I think if you can see that journey, as long as you can see a progression and they're like, devs are transparent in what they're doing, I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's kind of got a bit of a stigma attached to it now. Having a game in early access is almost like a red flag. It's like, oh god, these devs are just like, trying to get money.
This is never coming out fully.
Yeah, or you get a game like We Happy Few. It was massively hyped up, came out in early access, had bare bones content, and kind of wasn't quite what was advertised, and it was just a bit disappointing. And then when the full game came out, they added a bunch of stuff, and it just kind of fell off completely. Like what was advertised wasn't quite what was in early access, and then that wasn't quite what was released. So it just kind of like fell apart along its road. Whereas
I was super hyped for that game, by the way. And then, like you said, it just kind of was that. It was a bit of a bait and switch, and then it just, I don't know, I didn't even realize it came out for a long time, and it's on Game Pass now, but I don't really have any desire to play it.
Yeah, I picked up the early access version because I was like, holy crap, it's like a kind of different sort of, a little bit like System Shock, a little bit like Bioshock, you know, dystopian future kind of feel, but they had the element of the joy and stuff, and how they'd incorporated that with the environment and the look and feel of things. And it was like, oh cool, they're telling like, you know, an Orwellian psychological horror story about fitting into a society and trying to break those chains. That sounds really interesting. And then it turned out to be some weird pseudo open world like survival crafting game. It was like, what the hell is going on here? What is this?
It definitely didn't morph into a game that I wanted to play, and as such have not.
Yeah, and all they did on release was just add more characters. It was so great. That sounds like fun. But yeah, that aside, Hades great. I picked up Assassin's World Origins 2 because that was down from like £100 million because, you know, those kind of games always go for about, in fact, you know, saying 100 quid isn't actually that insane. Like if you want the digital deluxe edition, they'll charge you out the arse for it.
It's not far off, yeah, to get the super ultra mega gold edition. It's probably like 75 to 80 quid, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 80 for Assassin's Creed Origins Gold, and it was down to 15. So I was like, you know what? I like Assassin's Creed. I'll pick that up. And I did, and it's pretty good. Kind of, I almost want to talk about this at the same time that I talk about World of Horror, because World of Horror is a game that I also picked up. I spoke about it on an earlier episode, and I think you said to me at the time, Matt, this sounds like it's right up your street. And I didn't grab it then, just because I wasn't sold so much, but it was like £11, and I was like, go on then. I'll dip my toe in there. And I think putting my experience with Assassin's Creed Origins right next to World of Horror, to me, emphasized how even if you have this AAA budget and you can have the latest graphics and you can have your main characters like hair react properly underwater and all this kind of other impressive, not to say it's not impressive, the game looks and sounds beautiful and there's a lot of really awesome mechanics in there, but how that can feel like a hollow endeavor after I've played for about 5-6 hours and I've enjoyed those 5-6 hours, but you're just on the treadmill. You know what I mean? They introduce you to that loop and then they kind of like let you run on the treadmill and do it for as long as you like. There's nothing inherently wrong in that. It's fine to create a good core loop and then repeat it to allow your player to experience mastery of that. That's what games are built on. But I just don't feel like taking it in direct comparison with World of Horror, which is a tiny little game, 2-bit graphics, literally like playing on a Game Boy, And because it's not telling, it is telling a story about the world ending, but in a very personal way. Whereas, the problem with Assassin's Creeds, in my opinion, and some other AAA games suffer from this, and in fact some movies as well, is when you raise the stakes so high that it's like you're battling for all creation, or like if the Templars get the apple of Eden, then we are all forsaken. It's like everyone dies if you fail, and that just like cuts me off emotionally from the game immediately. I can't.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it takes, like I said, it takes the personal element away from it. So it's like, okay, yeah, you're doing this for all of humankind, but a story about a collection of 4 or 5 people can be just as meaningful, if not more meaningful, because it is personal to you or to that character that you become attached to.
Yeah, for sure. And World of Horror does have, it's Lovecraft inspired, so you've got like elder gods trying to break through and they're doing lots of evil stuff to this town. But it's framed as you're someone who's kind of not seen the light, but you're able to like see through the barrier a little bit. You're noticing all of these strange things take place, whereas other people either aren't willing to investigate them. And you go to this town and you have to solve the mysteries there. So it might be that a ramen shop has popped up and everyone that goes there is saying that they're healed of like terminal illnesses, but they can't stop going back. And you're certain that has something to do with what else is occurring, like the hooded figures that are appearing around town and things. And even me just saying that, it's intriguing. It straight away, the story is like, ooh, what's going on here? And I don't know whether that's because of my personal interest, but it triggers that part of your mind that makes you interested. You want to know what's next. You want to know what's going to happen. So you become invested more in the story. Whereas knowing that you are doing ultimate good in a world of absolutes is less interesting. It's just less engaging, really.
It's a bit more blanket, I guess. Whereas what you said about the ramen place, that kind of sparks your natural inquisitiveness to just discover more for your own benefit. Like, it's not like once you discover this or don't, the world probably won't change as much. Where like you said, the Templars are gone, the apple is safe. But it's just now you know.
Yeah, and that sometimes, and some of the missions do end that way, where you struggle through something and your character goes through hell and is like changed and ends up with all these psychological disorders and stuff. And at the end of it, there's no evidence that you did anything, but that you've done something that has either pushed evil away or brought you closer to your goal. Or so it's not about exposing things to the world. And one other point, I could talk about World of Horror for a long time because I'm like 18 hours in and I got it on Friday. I just can't put the game down right now. I wanted like to just juxtapose it with the AAA horror experience and playing it. I've played Resi 7, played Resi 2, played Amnesia, played Layers of Fear. And none of those are bad games. None of them are poor. I think they're all really well developed. They've got great graphics. They've got decent sound design. From a technical standpoint and even the design standpoint. And I loved Resi 2. I thought it was a really great game. But there's when I switch off Layers of Fear or Resident Evil 2, I'm like done with it. I might get a little spook here and there, and maybe some of the enemies are scarier than others, or maybe I jumped a couple times. But when I switch it off, I'm like, boy, it's just gone from my head. You know, it doesn't stick with me. And this tiny game has, through just amazing art direction, which can be attributed to its inspiration from the Junji Ito manga, which I now absolutely have to read. I've kind of like heard of him before, but this has like really triggered me to want to read anything he's put out. But the art direction and stylistic choices mean that moments really stick with you more, and they generate a true feeling of dread. It isn't just a fleeting panic. You know, it's not like, oh, that was scary, now I'm done. It actually, you feel yourself having like that creeping sensation of fear. And it's nice to see someone who's put effort and time into generating that feeling, making you stressed out and panicked, enveloping it into their world of horror, if you will. But yeah, I'm super enamored with that game, and I'm really glad I picked it up. I'm going to shut up now because I've been talking a lot. Sam, what have you been playing?
That was like an audiobook on World of Horror. That was almost a dissection.
Yeah, I could talk more.
But it sounds like you're having a lot of fun with it. I'm going to go the other way and say that I just played some games. I didn't get as invested in them as you did. I finished Bioshock 2. Did my first play. I partitioned my playthrough, so I had my first playthrough. I just went back on easy because, as I said, I think in the last episode, I didn't really remember a lot of it, so I wasn't sure what was going to be like the hard areas that I was going to struggle on. So I thought I'll take the first playthrough, re-familiarize myself with the game. I'll probably be able to get the majority of the collectibles, and then if I know I'm missing some, because you can kind of sense, you don't have to. You get the weapon upgrade stations, but they're fairly obvious. And you don't need all the diaries in this one. You just need like 100. I think there's like 129 overall, so you can miss a fair few. And the majority of audio diaries you find just via natural exploration anyway, which is what I did, which is why my first playthrough took so long. And I was quite impressed actually how the game it put just the right amount of breadcrumbs on like within the world for you to want to push that thing forward. Like you'll see there's one area called Siren Alley, which is kind of like the red light district of Rapture. And you're going around and you see a grocery store, and you go into there and you're like, okay, this has got a name, it's got a sign. This is usually a signal if they've gone to that degree to advertise this as a place, so they want you to poke around a bit. So I would go in, there was like a locked door, and I was like, okay, maybe it's just one of those doors. And there's like a switch under the desk, and that unlocks the door, and you go back and you get like a different tonic, and there's just the right amount of stuff that if you scratch a little bit, you could find a decent amount of stuff under the surface. So that was something that impressed me on my replay of that game several years later. Went back then through a second time on hard. Wasn't as insane as I thought it would be, but you can carry Bioshock 1, you can carry 9 of each first aid and Eve hypos, whereas this you can only carry 5, and then you can get tonics that allow you to carry 1 more of each. But you don't really need them too much. I think I literally died once, and that was the first Big Daddy, because you're just not really prepared to fight him. Winter Blast and the Freezing Drill is the way to go for the tough enemies on that game, because you could just loop them. I initially thought it was the Electrobolt. The Electrobolt has a really bad property in that, say if you shock somebody, if you go to the second they take damage from another source, it like pops them out of that like I'm being electrocuted animation.
Okay.
So if you've got like a bot with you and you're trying to like freeze an enemy to ping it in the head, if the bot's nailing it, it just that loop can't happen. So it's almost a detriment to have those things with you.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, a little bit. And the only thing that kind of disappoints me about Bioshock is that there is, for all the stuff the game gives you, like it develops the plasmids a bit more, gives you, like I said, you can have security bots, you can hack stuff, and I don't feel like you can play several different ways, but there usually is one standout way, like I said with Winter's Blast, that is just objectively the most powerful. Like on the first game it was telekinesis, and on this it seems to be that. And the only criticism I have is that there are a lot of ways surface to play the game, but there's only one way you can kind of feel powerful. Because I initially thought, okay, I'm going to try and have this playthrough as like an only security playthrough, and like I'll go for tonics to make my bots stronger and pump up the security command, what's the word, plasmid, so I can put into that and that can help me. But it didn't really work. So I was like, I'm just going to stick with the most objectively powerful way and get through it. But yeah, I've maxed that now. That's all done. Done the first one, done the second one. I haven't dived into Infinite just yet because I wanted a little bit of break from the series. I didn't want to generate a lethargy. So I went back to Red Dead 2. Go back into that. I haven't pushed the story forward that much just because that's not what I do generally in open world games, and there's plenty to do in that. But I've been focusing on the challenges. Like, they're meant to earn you extra experience in like your health and Deadeye and things like that. But I've got that just through playing, so it's not doing it for that. I'm just doing it because it goes towards the 100%. I want to say there's 9 categories, and there's like it kind of focuses on each, I guess, aspect of the game. So there's like win so many hands in poker, travel from this place to this place in under so much time, collect so many of these flowers, like all the kind of aspects of the game. It gives you 10 challenges in each of those things. And the only slightly annoying thing is that it doesn't apply them retroactively. So one of the challenges is to collect all the plants, all the different types of plants, of which there are 43.
Ooh.
I've got 33, but it didn't say if I'd already collected those 33, it didn't count them up to that point. So I still had to go back and collect them. So that kind of stuff's a little bit annoying. So if you've done all those, say if you've done that before that certain challenge becomes unlocked, because you unlock them progressively. So like, say there's 10 challenges, challenge 1, you have to unlock in order to do challenge 2. And if you did challenge 2 just by happenstance before you did challenge 1, it doesn't matter. So that's a little bit annoying. And then aside from that, I've been catching the legendary fish, which again is another contributing thing to the 100%. And yeah, that's pretty much it, to be honest. Just those two that is dominating my time. That and Smash, but I've leaned away from Smash just because.
Yeah, always there in the background.
Yeah, just to, pop it on for an hour or so. That's generally just something I do now to play with you. I don't really play Quick Smash anymore. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. So that's what the two of us have been playing, but Matt now is going to tell us about the releases.
I am indeed. So there have been no real groundbreaking releases in the last couple of weeks, so we're just going to cover what has come out. The first of which being SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. This has come at us from Purple Lamp Studios, 23rd of June 2020. This is the third major title developed by Purple Lamp and is a remaster/remake of the original SpongeBob SquarePants game, which is well loved by fans. It's a nostalgia classic for a lot of us 30-odd-year-olds that came up on the PS2. I can't give you an exact date on that, but it was that kind of era. So, a lot of us grew up in our early teens playing an inoffensive platformer game. And this is that again. It's basically exactly what you would expect it to be. They've updated the visuals, but the game design remains untouched. It's precisely the same game. And people have been receiving that differently. There's been a real disconnect in this game from the critics to the fans. The critics saying that it isn't in line with the evolution in game design up to now for platformers. It doesn't match up to a 2020 platformer. Whereas the fans are saying, this is exactly what I wanted it to be because it's SpongeBob SquarePants, the game I loved, but just updated visually so I can play it again on my console. And
that strikes me as that's what I would want if I was a fan. And I didn't play the original, but I'm intrigued to get this game. And to say to make that criticism that it's not like Mario-esque seems a little harsh for a game that's probably not trying to be that.
Well, the comparison for me is Crash and Spyro, both of which we've seen remastered trilogies come out, and they both had really minor quality of life improvements, like really minor touches here or there. It hasn't been to the point where the game has been restructured. I know you've played both, Sam, so you probably have a better eye on this than I have, but from my understanding, they've both been reworked, not necessarily to fit in with the game design of 2020. They're both still, well, Crash specifically is still a very hard game that demands a lot from a player, which you don't see so much in 2020. And Spyro, it's a classic collectathon, more so in Spyro's case, but they're collectathon platforming games that are there's a specific kind of player for them, I think is what I'm trying to say.
I get what you're saying with that, but I would make the argument that Crash and Spyro were really good games in their own right before they were remastered, and they didn't need a whole lot of fixing, and any elements that were wrong with them were wrong because of, I guess, technical advances at the time or just slight oversight. So they definitely had their kinks ironed out. But I think SpongeBob, it came out a little bit later, so it had a bit more, I guess, time to be developed within that, I guess, category of criticism. But it was just an excuse for people that were gamers and also fans of SpongeBob to play an open world collectathon. It's kind of like Simpsons Hit and Run in a way. Like, I'm a big fan of The Simpsons. I bought that game because I wanted to play an open world Simpsons. I didn't really care. Like, if they did a remaster and just made it look nicer, that's enough for me. That's the reason for I can play it on a current gen console. You know, the fact that they didn't, rework the getting in and out of car animations, or didn't work on the hitbox modeling, that wouldn't really bother me. So to levy that standard of criticism at that game, to me, seems slightly unfair. But I still understand that they're saying that, maybe it's not enough in 2020 to just make a game look prettier.
That's the crux of the argument, and that's where the wedge is being driven between critics and fans. But people who have bought it seem perfectly satisfied with it, and there isn't really a lot to say about it because it's a game that came out. It is the same game, it's SpongeBob. You play as SpongeBob, presentation's good, you get all the jokes from the series, you play as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy traveling around Bikini Bottom. Not entirely unlike Banjo-Kazooie-esque mission to just collect a whole bunch of stuff, and that's it. For me, it was fine to play when I played it, and I enjoyed the game, but I wouldn't be interested in buying it again. It looks like a watered-down Mario to me, pun intended.
Hey.
I'm going to move swiftly on from that to Iron Man VR, coming us from Camouflage Studios, spelt with a J, of course. That came out the 3rd of July, 2020. This is a second big-ish game from the studio, their previous being Republique, which was an action stealth game that came to VR afterwards, had a VR release after the initial game's release. It's being well received by everybody, and as a VR experience it is as you expect. You get into the suit of Iron Man, you can pilot him around flying in the air, shooting down drones. You move yourself around the environment by holding down the triggers and pointing your hands in different directions, so you actually thrust yourself around the environment, then you have to hold your hands out and fire at various enemies.
That's cool.
It seems like a cool experience. I personally can't escape the feeling that VR games are always kind of gimmicky, and I can't really ever see myself wanting to venture into it because it's a game I might pick up for 2-3 hours and be like, oh, that's a fun little thing. I'm glad I spent £1,000 on that VR headset. It's like
you want to know someone that has it. You don't want to buy it yourself.
Precisely. They're just not worth it in my opinion. But technically, it's a great display of the PSVR's capabilities. So the hand tracking's really great, head tracking's really great. There's no motion sickness, even though you're moving an awful lot, and you're moving just moving anywhere you want and fighting enemies that are constantly moving around you, which I think is quite impressive to remove that sense of motion sickness. I imagine it's quite difficult from a player engagement side to be able to design that out. A pretty standard VR game. If you have a PSVR, which I don't know if it comes bundled with the PlayStation 4 or if that's a special package, if you have it, it's probably worth picking up, but this is not a VR headset seller. It's a fun aside, and if you ever wanted to fly around with Friday talking in your ear, shooting down drones, this is definitely the game for you.
Is there a VR seller at the moment? Is there any game? Maybe Beat Saber, but I can't really think of any ones other than that.
The only two games I think that are real standout VR games are Beat Saber, like you said, and Half-Life Episode 2. Oh, actually, Boneworks as well. Boneworks looks like great fun. And it looks like it's a bit more in-depth and challenging, and actually is a full game. It's not just an experience with a game built around 2 or 3 mechanics. It's like a full game from what I can see.
Okay.
On to my last release, and I like to dig up the dregs when I do this one. This is Last Evil from Critical Bliss, coming out 24th of June 2020. Do we want to list off some tropes? Say them with me. It's a roguelike deck building game where you play as a succubus. I want you to see.
Do
you know
it's a Metroidvania inspired, Soulsborne even.
Soulsborne open world. Essentially, this game is Slay the Spire hentai edition. So
the one thing missing from my life.
Yeah, if
I played Slay the Spire, do you know what's missing? Tentacles.
I wish every time I beat a boss, I could just see just a little bit of porn, just a tiny bit of porn. I just want.
That's the reward.
And that is actually a part of the game. That's what happens. That wasn't even a joke. So unlike Slay the Spire's charming 2D sprite-based presentation, which I really like, it's quite basic. They're kind of like paper puppets, the way that they move and stuff, which it completely works for the stylistic direction of the game. So I very much enjoyed that. In this, we have 3D models with really limited animation, and it looks quite stilted in the gameplay that I saw. And I was like, okay, I really hope that doesn't carry on to the other scenes as well. But oh, it does. All of the hentai scenes, instead of being drawn, are 3D model based. So you get like awkward, starry-eyed rubber dummies gyrating on one another in the hentai scenes, which I imagine is unappealing. It seems unappealing to me, but then again, that's not my area of pleasure.
It's unappealing for like 99.9% of people, but there's that 0.1 person, they're going to love it.
Exactly. And as all great hentai games have, there's a really robust customization system for your character, including...
That's a sentence that's never been said before. As all great hentai games have. ... Continue.
So, of course, there is a breast slider. So you can go from normal boobs to insane moon physics beanbags, if you so choose. Yeah, just thought I'd leave you with that just in your mind.
Why don't these guys make porn? Why are they trying to like put on this facade that it's a game? Just go and like access some kind of physics engine with porn, right? Just make your own modeled hentai porn. Why are you trying to wrap it up in this weird game package?
I don't understand it either, because from the looks of it, the Slay the Spire type elements, they aren't even that bad. Like it's a completely serviceable deck building roguelike. It's incredibly derivative, but they've managed to recreate the game in some form, and they've got a fairly decent approximation of it. And I don't like you. Why don't they have a deck building game that they release and everyone plays as the game, and then make your own 3D hentai girl experience and just have that as an aside? I don't know what putting them together brings.
Yeah, don't mix your business and pleasure. Make your game and then do your porn in your own time. Have a passion project. It's good to have hobbies.
Unless it's hentai. That's my 3 for this week. That's me.
Thanks, Matt. I'm enlightened as always.
So that's my releases for this episode. Sam, why don't you take us into the open seas of gaming and tell us what land is ho?
I shall. That was a beautifully poetic intro.
Thanks.
To the news, Matt, and set sail with me into the first nugget land. Number one is that Discord has announced that it's going to move away from its quote-unquote game-related branding. So the majority of gamers will know Discord as its like the TeamSpeak app, rather than just going through first-party stuff. But now it's trying to move away from that, I guess, in the wake of online internet video chat apps like Zoom and House Party and Teams and all that kind of stuff being at the forefront of how people are communicating with the lockdown, which is actually technically ending today in the UK, or being eased a lot to some degree. It's trying to move away from that, I guess, gamer branding. Was announced by Jason Citron in a blog post. It's changed its tagline to "Your Place to Talk." And Citron has said, quotes, "As time passed, a lot of you realized and vocalized that you simply wanted a place designed to hang out and talk in the comfort of your own communities and friends," which, we've used, as we are doing right now. We use Discord as a tool to communicate more than just when we're playing games. We do use it in games, but we do use it for more things other than that. Mm-hmm. But that's almost definitely been exacerbated by COVID and the effects that it's had on everybody. So it's not a surprise. He also said, quotes, "We designed Discord for talking. There's no endless scrolling, no news feeds, and no tracking likes. No algorithms decide what you should, quote unquote, see. We designed Discord to enable the experience and feelings we wanted to recreate. Being together with your community and friends." Sorry, that's. I thought it was going to be a huge list, but that's just that one point. "You've made your servers into personal spaces filled with people you invited and set the topics of discussion. Your communities all have their own rules and norms of engagement, giving people fun roles and adding inside joke emojis." As a new-ish user to Discord, I've only got it in the past 6 months. You've been around a lot longer than I have, Matt, in that realm. But I think it's good that they're, I guess, trying to not necessarily shed that brand, but become an all-encompassing brand. I don't think it'll pull in that many people that are doing that, because I think once COVID is over, this is probably going to revert back to normal in terms of people seeing each other in person. The fact they don't want to pursue that Facebook sponsored ads model, I think, is a good thing.
Hmm.
And it's nice to just have that space where people can meet up and chat.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I'm a big advocate for Discord. It's robust. They add a lot of new features. It's free. It's a really good app. It's just a nice thing to have, and it enables people to connect from all over the world. And like you said, it's been specifically useful in the recent COVID lockdown. And yeah, sure, if they're going to start reaching out, add more features, can't be a bad thing, right?
Exactly. That's what I believe anyway. On to nugget number 2 is that the Twitch channel of President Donald Trump has been suspended as of June 29th for hateful conduct.
Okay.
I was slightly bewildered when I heard this because I wasn't sure why Donald Trump had a Twitch channel.
Is
But
he mad
apparently
into
it's
Fortnite?
for he's like top 10 on like Apex, but he goes under like the name of like Hentai Master 77 or something.
It's like Ninja Donald Trump.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a whole big conspiracy. But yeah, apparently the account is used to broadcast rallies and presidential related events. I don't know who's using Twitch to view that, but I guess there must be some people. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But upon banning the channel, or suspending the channel rather, Twitch issued a statement to Kotaku that said, quotes, "In line with our policies, President Trump's channel has been issued a temporary suspension from Twitch for comments made on stream, and the offending content has been removed." So they're referring to, in particular, come from a rally in 2016 where he referred to Mexican immigrants as rapists. I don't know what exact context that was in, but that's what I'm getting the information from. And from a rally in Tulsa of this year, where he talked about, he was describing a hypothetical situation about where people, I don't know all the facts surrounding the matter, but it was about the ability to not call 911, or if people weren't able to call 911. And he described if a quote very tough hombre was breaking into the window of a young woman whose husband is away. I think he was using that as like an analogy to describe what could happen if you weren't able to call 911. I guess some people think he's inferring that person wouldn't be just a white male. They would have to be.
He's picked a very specific word there, hasn't he? Describing them as a tough hombre is not an accident.
It's not yeah, exactly. I was going to say it's not an accident. Twitch said that they made Trump and his team aware from the start that they're basically not above the Twitch law, which is good, you know, because if you start handing out preferential treatment or, you know, people getting special treatment because of who they are, or they're backhanding money to Twitch, that's going to make everybody happy, and that's never a good, you know, that never leads to a good place. Twitch also said to Kotaku, quotes, "We do not make exceptions for political or newsworthy content, and will take action on content reported to us that violates our rules." And Reddit, I don't know if it's been related to this, has also banned the Donald subreddit, I guess for similar reasons. I don't know exactly what stuff happened on there, but some other hateful conduct and some description has happened on there, so they shut it down. I think it's really good to see Twitch doing this. I think they've stepped in at the right time. They've handed out the right punishment. They haven't made an insane thing of it. Yeah, like I said, they're not giving preferential treatment just because of who he is. You know, he's not above the law. And as much as, what does he care about Twitch ban? He probably doesn't even know what the hell Twitch is. He probably doesn't know he's had this. But I guess his social media PR team will be aware.
It's just,
but they're not.
It's nice to see a simple equation coming out as it should. You know, he has violated the rules of the platform on which his PR team, as you said, have chosen to put his comments, and they're in violation of that. So they're not allowed on there. And I think I know the context of the 2016 rally. It was to do with the immigration stuff. He said that he's basically inferred that people who were immigrating from Mexico or South America, they were only sending bad people, and he described them as criminals. He said that the only people who come from South America are criminals, or inferred that was what that was to do with.
Well, I can definitely understand why they got rid of it. My main news story this week is to do with Niantic, who many people know as I want to say publishers, I'm not sure, definitely developers of Pokemon Go. And they've announced that they're going to be working on currently at least 10 other augmented reality games, one of which being Settlers of Catan, which they've titled Catan World Explorers. For those who don't know, Settlers of Catan is a board game where you like grow a settlement and kind of trade resources, and then eventually get points. Usually going up to 10. I've never played it myself. I know of what it is, but I don't know if you've had any experience with Settlers of Catan, Matt.
Yep, I've played Settlers a few times now. Fun game.
To say it's a board game of Civ, in a way, Civ is obviously a lot more advanced, but does it follow the same theory of the game in a way?
No, not. I mean,
you're not going from like Stone Age to like neopunk or whatever.
It's
the
more
growing
about,
of a society and settlement.
It's a resource management game where you trade and accrue resources in order to gain victory points, and then having 10, I think it's 5 or 10 victory points. It's been a while since I played it. 5 or 10 victory points will give you a win. So that you get victory points by like building the longest road, or having the most number of cities, or having a certain number of cities, or having a certain number of ports or something. So that's kind of a brief summary, I guess.
Live exposure to it is there were some fairly weak jokes on Big Bang Theory about having wood for sheep and being in the middle of an erection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you got wood is the line that comes out more often than
I'm
ever.
sure it's a barrel of laughs, and I'm sure it gets funnier every time, like every joke like that does. The AR game works by turning your neighborhood or cul-de-sac into that said settlement. So I guess when you go outside, if you look around with your phone in AR mode, it's going to show you what that would look like in Settlers of Catan mode. The beta tests are going to begin, quotes, very soon. And there's a website up at the moment, so you can sign up for pre-register, and all the juicy email updates that companies love to give you. Are you okay with giving us your email forever so we can send you updates of people we don't know? You gain resources like lumber and grain and wool and all that kind of lovely stuff by visiting different locations. So I guess going to like your shop down the road, the Tesco might be a place where that's where you get your lumber, and then maybe the school like across town, that's the only place you can get grain. I don't know. I'm winging it here, as you can definitely tell.
I get what you mean.
Because they haven't released a hell of a lot of information about it, but the main thing is that not all resources are going to be available in specific regions. So trading with other people is like a must.
That's good.
Yeah, it creates that, I guess, the need to interact with people, unless you want to, make a 1-day trip to Niagara Falls just so you can get some, I don't know, beech wood or something.
It's good that they're keeping such a core element of the board game alive in the mobile game as well. They're not traveling too far away from it, and it seems pretty cool.
Yeah, I know.
I'll give this a look, certainly.
I'm not a Settlers of Catan player, but I'll definitely be examining it. I think AR is a really cool genre. I think AR, for me, trumps VR, but that's a discussion for a different day.
We could get into that.
Yeah. You earn victory points by collecting resources and growing your settlement, which, quotes, contribute to your faction's global score and your personal local game. Prevail as seasonal champion and win rewards that follow you into future seasons. So it says they're going to, I guess, follow the same kind of model that they have done with Pokemon Go. I dropped out of Pokemon Go a long time ago, but I've got a couple of friends that still dabble in it. And it seems like it's come a long way from when it first came out, just wandering around clicking on Pokemon. So yeah, if you want to check out, if you're going to check out Settlers of Catan, if you're going to sign up, let us know. Apparently, it seems like Matt is going to.
Certainly. Might even pop up here on a future review if it's worth looking at.
Oh, look at us foreshadowing.
Ooh.
But yeah, that's my news. That's all I got for you this week.
Thank you very much. I am enlightened as ever.
You are welcome.
Round 1, fight.
So that's my news, done and dusted, and we're going to move into the question this week, which is, why do we game? For what purpose do we game? And Matt is going to start us off.
This was could be a pretty broad and deep question. So I'm going to give you the things that kind of popped up to the surface of my mind when I heard it. Personally, I play games to escape, to find other experiences and another set of feelings, maybe, or just experience another world. I think this might be linked to my predication to playing D&D. I enjoy being a character as well, like going into a world that has an interesting character that's going to do interesting stuff. It can be fun to just experience that for a little while and, get your head out of your day-to-day life and do something else for a little bit. Kind of touching on what I spoke about in the opening when we were talking about World of Horror, I really like playing more personal games So a game that sticks out in my head to me is Little Nightmares, which I only played for say 4 hours. I can 4 to 6 hours, but I can really remember what that game was like because I was invested in everything that was happening, like trying to unravel the imagery that was being used and the character's journey. I was just very much invested in the game. Whereas something like Skyrim, I've put hundreds of hours into, but I've never really cared about it. I enjoyed it while I was in it, but that was definitely more of an escapism, where Little Nightmares is more of like a character-driven experience where you get to flow through another universe for a little bit, and it's damn fun. I definitely prefer those kinds of games that someone's put specific vision into, and they allow you to kind of see through their eyes for a little bit and have a taste of their experience or a taste of the experience they desire for their players. And on a more technical standpoint, I suppose, not technical from a coding or design aspect, but I kind of like to power game or like optimize builds. So I find games that have those kinds of aspects to them, so more RPG-esque aspects where you can combine different factors together. I quite like trying to go for like long shot builds. Like last week we were talking about Fallout 4 and how I'm going for a big guns melee combination, which is objectively bad, but trying to think of a way to make that work, I find that quite interesting and satisfying if you make it pay off. You know, it can be quite a satisfying experience. That's the main reason.
Yeah, for sure.
I suppose I play video games. What about yourself, Sam?
For me, it's probably no secret to people that I play them for the achievements. I remember playing like towards the end of the PS2, and I was getting a bit, I wasn't that old, but I was getting a little bit burnt out, and I was thinking, why am I playing this through on hard, or why am I doing X, Y, Z? And I remember then seeing achievements and thinking, oh yeah, this is it. This is the validation and the meaning that I've been looking for. And I understand that it's just an arbitrary list of things that the developers come up with, and some developers really get into them and really think of really clever ones. Say like for Half-Life 2, I think episode 2, to carry the gnome through the whole game. Like, as annoying that is, like, you remember doing that, and they have as much meaning as you give them, basically. And I get a lot of satisfaction for going through a game and trying to max every game that I can. And that's been my essentially gaming drive for the last 10, 15 years, maybe. Whenever the 360 came out, 2005-ish? Yeah, so probably around then. But yeah, I'm not one of these people that's like, I'm very aware that I'm in the minority, and I'm like, what do you mean you don't play for achievements? I get that it's very unusual for me to meet someone that also plays for achievements, and you've got to love a game to, in a lot of places, to do that. Beyond that, like you getting all the collectibles on Doom, you did that because you really like the game. You didn't do that really. There probably was an achievement attached to that, but you didn't do that because of that. That wasn't like your motive.
No, yeah,
I would imagine.
I did that because for the achievements in Doom, they were tied to in-game stuff. It wasn't arbitrary. Like gamer score is just arbitrary. It was, if you get all of the blah blah and blah blah, then you get an extra skin, or you unlock something. So I enjoy. I can sense your enjoyment in completion.
Yeah, there's an element of competitiveness. I don't play too many multiplayer games now. Smash is the only one I play like to a competitive degree. I used to play Gears a lot, but I just missed the boat with Gears 5, so I haven't really had that. It's something I like, that's definitely an element. And like friends, I won't say his name on here out of respect, but there's someone that we know and work with that they primarily just play games to PvP. They'll just play League of Legends, COD, Warzone, Apex, whatever, Like for them to play a single player game is a rarity. And I'm probably the inverse. I'm probably not so inclined to competitiveness, but I can see why a lot of people do. There's a very small percentage of people that can make a living from competitive gaming, but you can see why that like road, I guess, is attractive to people. And I guess you get your like dopamine fix of knowing that you were MVP out of 100 other people or 99 other people.
For sure.
There's definitely a social aspect of it, which I've realized more since I haven't played game with my friends. I played FIFA this year. I feel better for it, but it's like completely wore me out from playing games. They're playing Warzone, but I just downloading that game would take forever a day. So it's a choice I have to make. But yeah, a social aspect is definitely more than I thought it would be, or more than I thought it would be important to me like a year ago. and also for a cinematic experience. For me, gaming is like the ultimate form of conveying media and emotion in a way, I guess. It's like your physical participation in a story that drives it forward. You know, films are great. You know, I've seen some amazing films that have been like affecting, but when you're playing Red Dead for 50 hours and then your character suffers a certain fate, that like affects you, you know, because it was you put that time in, and you feel like it's almost you just feel it a lot more. Why I played.
Thank you, Sam.
And the question for next episode is, what is our favorite video game genre? So that's it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening, as always.
Yeah, thank you for spending your time here with us, and keep your eyeballs peeled on the Vox Ludio channel for everything that's upcoming, and the Vox Ludio Facebook page where we post funny things and are open to discussion, where you can contact us directly and we can talk about whatever you like.
Yeah, and we'll be continuing, with our new content, which is 3v3, which we should have an episode out sometime next week. And we'll be conducting our second interview next week as well, so keep your eyes on the channel for that as well.
I'm excited for that.